Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. So this is the agenda today, as Lini mentioned. I'm gonna first give a brief background information about the shape memory polymer, and then Lini is going to give you guys a design assignment with the theme of morphing jewelry, and then we conduct the experiment. So first, what's the definition of shape memory? In material science, it is defined as the ability of a material to resume original configuration after applied stimuli. So for all the materials I'm talking about today, as well as the materials we are going to work on today, the applied stimuli is specifically refers to heat. So that means the shape memory polymer we are going to work with today can resume its original configuration once you apply heat. So if you look at the left side GIF image, you can see this is a piece of shape memory alloy. And when you put it in a hot water, it can goes back to its original shape of a six-pointed star. And for on the right side is a piece of shape memory polymer. And it can also return back to a flattened strip from a twisted strip once you use a heat gun to heat it up. And for so the materials we're going to work on today is the type of shape memory polymer. And more specifically, it's the type of shape memory epoxy. So for epoxy, I believe most of you have seen it or work or even work with it before. So for example, the gorilla adhesives, it's a type of epoxy. And also on the left side image, there are some epoxy DIY kits for some artwork. Those transparent material also epoxy. But if you have never heard about it before, it's also okay. So for epoxy, it comes in a liquid form. It usually have two parts, the resin and the curing agent. And if you mix the resin with the curing agent, and then you cure the epoxy in the oven, you can get a solid and stiff material. So it's also usually transparent. And for the shape memory epoxy, this slide shows generally how the shape memory works. So there are two concepts you need to know: the permanent shape and the temporary shape. So for the permanent shape, it is defined during the curing process of the epoxy. So once it is defined, it cannot be changed. And the experiment part we're going to work on is to define the permanent shape of the shape memory epoxy today. So if you look at this piece of material, I define the permanent shape into this flat strip, and then I apply heat and I program it into another temporary shape. So if I heat it up and twist it and then hold the shape until it cools down, it can stay in the temporary shape. And then if I heat it up again, it can automatically recovers to the permanent shape again. So basically from the permanent shape to temporary shape, we do it manually. And from permanent shape to from temporary shape to permanent shape, it can recover automatically once you apply heat. And that's the general process. So the form factor we are going to work with is a rod, a thin rod. So I'm going to give one more example. So this is a piece of shape memory epoxy in the form of a rod that I've prepared. So here shows the permanent shape of this sample. So I place it into a knot shape. And then I also define the temporary shape as a straight rod. And then I'll show you how I trigger the shape memory effect. Oh, one more note, this knot consists of 3 parts and with different colors. So the transparent part will be triggered first in 60 degrees C water bath. And then if I Secondly, the pink part will be triggered in a slightly higher temperature water bath. And the last part will also be triggered. So if I trigger the three parts sequentially, I can get the not to tie itself. And that's generally how shift memory works. I think that's all for my brief introduction. If you have any question about how shift memory works, please ask now, because it will be very important for you guys to design the jewelry you're going to work with today.
Yeah, so you guys get we have more theoretical lectures upcoming about shift memory polymer. Today, we just want you guys to at least get a sense of what's the behavior of it, so you can actually get a sense what you're gonna make. Because like temporary shape, permanent shape is all a little bit confusing. So, but basically, the state, the shape state you're casting the material into, shape memory, literally, right? It means the material can remember shape. So the shape you cast the material into is its permanent shape. No matter how you manipulate later on, as long as you give it extra energy, in this case, the heat, basically you use a hot air gun to blow on it, or you put in hot water, it always recover back to its original shape you molded it into. So that's why it's called shape memory. It sounds fancy. It's also very common in polymers. So any questions or confusions about that? Okay, so if no, I continue to introduce the assignments of today. So this is the deliverable by the end of this class. So there's no assignment after class, but we want to make sure you have some fun. Yes. Also designing something along the way of practicing your very first shift memory casting. So it's a two-part lab. That's why I said Ko will join us twice, because whatever you made today, we have to put it in oven for a couple of hours, 5 hours. And she will put it in oven, bake it, and then bring it back. And then you can test out the result next Thursday. So for today, your idea is we use the word program, but it really means program with your hand when you are casting the shape. So basically you will learn how to cast a shape and how to set the shape you want as the permanent, remember the shape state. And we will do this in a rod form because it's just the easiest we can do it in the lab. But once you learn this technique, you can also go fancier. Ko will show some examples. Actually, in her lab part 2, she made some sheets. You can make opening, closing flowers and all these origami, remember the shape, etc. But anyway, so for us, we're gonna make a rod, and in between, Ko will put it in 5 hours oven, and then we come back next Thursday. You will be able to retrieve the sample. You will be able to test out the shift memory effect in the class, and then you will be able to photograph it and upload it as assignment. So about this assignment, again, the jewelry is a piece we haven't talked about. Just for that sake, I think it's fun to bring it up. But also, this is technically limited choices. So we only gonna give you guys a piece of rod, and you wanna think about some ways you can create an interesting geometry out of it. So we too were brainstorming about what's the right assignment. So we really thought, not too much you can do. Maybe a hairpin, like a little, like a decorative pins or something on your body, like so that's why the jewelry topic come into play. So, but it is also a very legitimate topic for design and also for interaction. So I'm not sure if you guys went to this exhibition, was a couple years ago in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. So it's a very big, I think one of the yearly major exhibition they curated. So in their way of thinking about function, their means historical, cultural, You know their category: the divine, the regal, the transcendent, alluring, resplendent. So basically, there are a lot about the identity, the religion, the belief you could convey through the piece you wear on the body. And we also would love you guys to kind of push a little bit further the concept of a jewelry piece in terms of its form factor also. So you could think about things, certainly a necklace that would be a safest option, but also things that could augment your body. You could get on your fingers. You could think about the relationship between the body and the space. You can think about it on your nose, on your leg. And again, you have limited length also from today, but your idea can still be bold. I hope at this point you guys all get our spirit of the class. So we're partially hypothesizing some bigger concepts, and then you will be able to execute part of it in the lab session. And hopefully, you have a chance to bring it further in life in the future. So in that sense, you could totally sketch something larger and bigger and more ambitious, and then pick a small portion to implement today. And talking about more aggressive and creative way of addressing jewelries. So you could also, again, these are all sort of visual inspirations for you guys, but starting to open your imagination. What's your definition of a jewelry piece on body? And think about a jewelry that are shared between people. So this is a thesis work from the Royal College of Art, the jewelry department. So the creator talked about jewelry as a piece to connect people. So, 2 fingers from different people wearing the same jewelry piece. And this was, on the other hand, the HCII publication. So they talk about basically nose piece. So as a way to diffuse and deliver drugs, they can be worn in different parts of your face, and then they can be used to diffuse not only drugs, but I believe also this kind of scent. And some are tuning your emotional state as well. And talking about inspiration, I also just put off two assignments from our class. If you guys still remember, this was from Leah's animation lab session. So one team worked on this idea of a necklace turns into a hair tie. I actually think with the technique we're discussing here, this seems a quite legitimate idea and also partially implementable. If you change the sheet into a rod, right, the idea can hold. I remember I believe the team was talking about arm injury, and I was talking about also safety in a workshop. So if you forget to tie your hair, right, the ship memory rod can do it for you. I forgot this context. I remember Leah really loved this idea. I think it was caffeine intake. If you take too much caffeine, so there's jewelry piece. My version, there's a jewelry piece can remind you of some of your health status. So that could be your concept, right? But inspired by this assignment one team. So we really hope you guys can get into thinking a little bit what you want to make before we get hands-on, because this is kind of the only chance we have in the class for you to think about what you're going to make. So we have 10 minutes for you for that. If you need papers, I think there are some papers and stuff around, pens, especially at that corner. Feel free to go there, grab it. This is a shared table, but individual assignment. So that does mean each one of you gonna make your own rod, but you will share the same syringe for raw material. So yes, so that means do your individual sketching, do your own uploading. You don't need to upload right now. This is to be uploaded by the end of the class. That's why I didn't even provide link here. But just started to think about what you wanna do out of a single rod. Think about it as between 10 to 30 centimeter. All right, 10 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you all get an idea in your head. So it's a little messy. We're gonna do this, messy for you to do everything by yourself. That's why you see Ke started to weight the material. Basically what she's doing right now is, wait a sec. What she's doing right now is, as she mentioned, the resin she's using has 2 parts. So she is mixing it in a specific ratio. That's why she has a weight measure here. We basically just want to do an initial weighing and mixing. For the next step, okay, no worries. For the next step, you as a team want to choose a color. So we give you one flexibility to add in a food dye. We have like 12 different colors. You briefly chat. If there's a conflict, settle on it. Settle on one color. So then one candidate from the team, bring your cup. There's also the green tip and also a Pepsi stick, right? Bring this whole set to us on the table. So we'll hear what the color you are choosing. We'll mix it for you, load it into a syringe so you can pick it up and bring it back to your team. And then your team will be doing the rest on your own table. So for some team that has not covered your table with plastic film, well, when teammate comes to fetch the material, the other team member covers the table, because we're going to use liquid resin. If it gets on the table is ruined.
This is what you're going to do when you load the material into the tube. Make sure you have your gloves on. It can, and don't over injection, because there's no stopper on the other end. And then you can make it any shape you want. I'm trying to make a circle here, so it's a 2D shape, but you can also use your imagination to make it a 3D shape. I can show you some tricks later. So basically fix it with some tabs and try to use more tabs to fix the shape. Because even though you fix it right now, it may, the tape may be less adhesive when it's in the oven. So you try to use as many tapes as possible, I think.